time for Clay's Anatomy. Mike, good news for Odell Beckham as he looks to be a go. You were already the highest ranker on OBJ. Now, with Jarvis Landry out, is Beckham a must-play this weekend?
Well, look, for a guy that hasn't played in quite a while, I don't think you could say must play, but, I am ranking him in that range where you're considering him for your wide receiver 3, maybe your flex spot. To your point, Jarvis Landry is not playing, and we know that Landry generally soaks up about 20% of the targets. That's going to open up a lot of opportunity for Beckham here. And look, he's going to play at least, he may be limited in this game to some extent, but even if he is, if you're limiting OBJ, it doesn't mean, we're going to throw him out there to run block, right? No, you're going to throw him out there to run some routes and catch some passes. That would be his limited role. So if you get 5 to 7 targets from a guy of his caliber in this high-scoring offense, there's an opportunity for some fantasy production. And they're playing the Bears, who are having some issues at corner. They've allowed the 4th most fantasy points to wide receivers so far through 2 games. So I think if you have Beckham and you need somebody in that flex spot, you can go ahead and use him.
Speaking of targets, we all know Brady at this point leading the NFL 9 touchdown passes, but his top 2 targets, a wide receiver, you seem to be a little sour on. So why lower expectations for Evans and Godwin?
2 words, Jalen Ramsey, right? Man, that guy is unbelievably good. He plays the star position. What's the star position? We haven't ever even really heard of that until Ramsey was traded to the Rams. That essentially means he plays all over the place. And this year, that has left him in the slot about 55% of the time. Why is that notable? Well, that's where Chris Godwin has aligned 73% of the time this season. So there's a chance, if Ramsey doesn't shadow, that he'll be on Godwin on over half his routes. So that's what makes me a little nervous about Godwin. However, when these teams played last season, he did shadow, and he shadowed Mike Evans. Evans only had 49 yards in that game. He did bail you out with a touchdown, but that would be a really, really tough matchup. So there's risk for either of those guys. Regardless of who Ramsey is on, overall, this Rams defense has been terrific against the pass since the start of last season. So far this year, 6.4 yards per target, second lowest in the NFL, only 1 touchdown to opposing wide receivers. If there is some saving grace, though, Antonio Brown unlikely to play, so that should mean more targets for those 2 guys. Maybe makes you feel a little better about them, but there is some risk against a really, really good defense.
Now, Lamar Jackson is good to go Sunday despite missing practice on Thursday, which is good news for Hollywood Brown, as the chemistry was there in week 2 with 10 targets. You were the only ranker to have him in the top 20. Is he poised for a monster game against the Lions?
I'm the only one top 20. I got to talk to my colleagues in the fantasy department. Look, this guy's fantasy's number 8 scoring wide receiver so far. And this isn't just a 2-week thing here where he's playing at a high level. He has a touchdown or 87-plus receiving yards in 10 consecutive games. So he's been red hot since the middle of last season. He's handling a career-high 30% target share. And the Lions, look, they're already struggling as a defense this season, but they're missing 2 of their top 3 perimeter corners. Brown lines all over the field. He's going to see all of their corners, and they've really had a hard time at that position for a while now. So Marquise Brown, a must start at this point.
All right, Mike, I've gone long enough without asking you a Raiders question. Sometimes worlds collide, right? In the fantasy world for my beloved Raiders is all worked up about the fact that Josh Jacobs looks like he's likely not to play. You're higher on Kenyan Drake than most of the rankers. Other than our friendship, why?
Yeah, we'll see on Jacobs, right? It looks like he was doing a couple things at practice yesterday, so we'll get a good idea later today. But, right now, if we're looking, let's assume Jacobs is out for now. If he plays, you start him as an RB2. If he's out, we're looking at Kenyan Drake. Look, he outsnapped Peyton Barber 45-19 last week with Jacobs sidelined. He only had 7 carries, so that role didn't really change for him. Barber had 13 in the game. Drake has not added anything as a rusher so far, 13 carries, 20 yards. But he's top 5 at running back in catches and receiving yards. That's kind of where he makes his hay. That's where he's going to moving forward in this Raiders offense. They're playing the Miami Dolphins. They've struggled so far against running backs. 194 scrimmage yards to the Patriots in week 1. They gave up 3 touchdowns on the ground to Bills running backs in week number 2. So it is a potential spot for Kenyan Drake to do some damage. I think if you have him, you're considering him probably a back-end RB2, and you can slide him into your lineup.
Look, that's why we're friends. Mike, I appreciate the positivity for my fantasy team and for my real team. Mike Clay, thanks for your time, brother.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.